Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show and our Week 12 recap, Week 13 preview. Just glad to have you here on our Turkey Day Eve joining us. And, well, I wanted to get out and I wanted to get on the mic the last two nights, but my nose was just completely stuffed and I sounded really nasally and I just couldn't do it. And I wanted to give you guys a proper thank you for watching the channel and supporting it. I really appreciate it. Keeps me going. And so that's what got me out tonight. I wanted to make sure you guys out there were appreciated. So, all right. We will start with the Week 12 recaps. And then I'll try and squeeze through these as fast as I can because I want to focus on the main hitting topics going towards Week 13. So let's bring this up. Just to refresh, Week 12, our Monday night game, we had, let's bring that one up. That one, of course, we had the Chargers hosting the Ravens. And so this one, the Ravens jumped out to a nice lead early on, but then the Chargers crept back late. And pretty much ended up with, Lamar doing his thing. He had a couple touchdown passes, 177 yards. Henry got over 100. He was at 140. It's mostly looking at the pass catchers for the Ravens that interests me here in the target distribution with them. So you saw Zay Flowers with 5 catches, Mark Andrews with 5 catches, Rashad Bateman getting into the end zone. So, Lamar spread it around nicely. Deontay Johnson has definitely become droppable in redraft. I don't know why the Ravens traded for him, but I guess it was just for depth, the position, because he is not getting any looks. Justice Hill, 4 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. Didn't see much receiving wise, but still found his way into the end zone. Over for the Chargers, the key for them is the J.K. Dobbins injury and just how long that will keep him sidelined. Gus Edwards was definitely a good pickup if you were able to scoop him up in a shallower league. And then if you look at the target distribution here from Herbert had 36 attempts for 218 yards. Ladd has definitely become his favorite. And Will Dissly continues to add in. Those are the only semi-consistent enough players that I'd be counting on going into games this weekend. The others, Quentin Johnston, he's fine if you've got him in best ball, but in a lineup league, I have no interest. Josh Palmer, the same, basically. So that's where I'm at with that receiving core there for them. Herbert looked solid, didn't get a touchdown pass, did run one in, but he was against Baltimore's D, and they're tough. So I'll give him a pass on this one. He should be able to bounce back. Because, he had 5 out of the previous 6 games, I think he had over 20 points. Let me see here. The Chargers take on the Falcons this week, so it's a good opportunity for a bounce back performance indoors there in Atlanta for Herbert. Let's move back to the scores and let's talk about Sunday night, huh? All right, all my Saquon fans out there, give a shout, because I'm telling you, this was... If you were able to watch the game, which fortunately enough I was, and seeing it live when Saquon took it to the house was just one of those game where you were like, this guy's got a shot to actually be the MVP this year. So, then he had another 70-yarder. So, finished with 255 yards on the ground, then over 300 all-purpose. And the key is that it happened on national TV. So that helps boost your MVP stock all the time. I mean, say what you will about should it matter if they were live on national TV or not? Well, whether you like it or not, it does. So it's definitely harder for somebody like, say, Baker Mayfield to win the MVP, right? Tampa's only on national TV. Well, they're done. They were on twice. And, they lost to Baltimore and they lost to Atlanta on the Thursday night game. So I don't know that these teams that are going to have late season primetime games, they're the ones, their players are going to have a better chance at the MVP. So like Lamar, he needs to have a primetime game probably still, which I'm sure they do. And if not, they'll find a way to get him on national TV. Anyway, those would be the top two candidates in my opinion right now. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. But that also artificially insulates Saquon's dynasty value. So just keep that in mind, you Saquon owners out there. And now is the time where you start to think about Saquon in the realm of, is this guy potentially a Hall of Fame type running back? And we all know what happens with Hall of Fame type players, especially at the running back position. It means that they continue to do well in ages 28 through, say, 31 or 32. So it's the trajectory that Derrick Henry's on. It's sort of the trajectory that Christian McCaffrey is on as well. He's hitting a little stumbling block right now, but we'll see if they bounce back, the Niners, that is. And we'll get to them in just a few minutes. But regardless, if you own Saquon, don't necessarily just feel this offseason the need to get rid of him because of his age. All right. He, in my opinion, is somebody that will age well. He was an amazing prospect, right? One of the highest picked running backs in the last couple of decades, at number 2 overall. And, there were the detractors when the Giants made the selection, but I think his talent has shown, that he was worth that high of a draft pick. It's just a matter of, again, can a team win it all with a main running back as their main weapon? We'll see. Most of the teams that have been successful over the last few years, it's been, two running backs, 2 or even 3 running backs, right? You look at the Chiefs. I mean, they bring them in and spit them out. It's a revolving door there. So anyway, just keep that in mind when this offseason comes up, when you're talking about Saquon and possibly trading him away or looking to obtain him. All right. So let me go back here. Week 12. There we are. So let's talk about the Niners. Niners went into Green Bay all banged up. We didn't know until, what was it, Friday, that Purdy was out. And so Brandon Allen stepped in and here we go. Let's bring that one up for you guys. I don't know if you really want to see it, but here we go. All right. Brandon Allen steps in, and yeah, it wasn't great. We'll put it that way. So the Niners offense definitely showed that they need Brock Purdy back there. Okay. But Purdy might miss another week. So that's a huge game time decision that the Niners have coming up this week. They're taking on the Bills on Sunday night in front of everybody. So this would be 2 embarrassing losses in a row. Last week's was the 3:30 game, the late afternoon game for a national audience. And now you got this week. So we'll see if the Niners can suck it up. Bosa's back. They should be able to give Josh Allen a go. So definitely a team that could sneak into Buffalo and get a win there. The Packers just steamrolled. I mean, it was Josh Jacobs all day long. He got the hat trick, 3 touchdowns. To note of their receivers, Romeo Doubs did have a concussion, so he will be out this coming week 13 game, which the Packers play the 3rd game on Turkey Day tomorrow. And so we will not see Romeo Doubs in the lineup, but Packers at home against Miami. It'll be chilly, not good for Miami. But they still could give them a run. It's up to the Miami defense to make sure the Packers don't jump out to a lead. Miami needs to get out and get out quick if they're going to win that one. Let's see. Arizona, Seattle, kind of a boring game. So wasn't a whole lot in this one. The big man here, though, is Trey McBride. So did want to talk on him just for a minute, because the question this offseason for Trey McBride will be, are we back to having another elite tight end? And by elite, I don't mean like this offseason where we had this offseason, there was like the top 5, 6, 7 tight ends. You could just throw a dart and give your argument for them being the top overall tight end. And then you had the Kittle and Bowers tier, and it just so happens that those 2 are the top 2 tight ends this year. So it's just a lot of irony there. But McBride had risen this past offseason to, say, tight end number 2 at some point during the offseason. So this year now, going forward at the tight end position, are we going to be looking at a sort of division line there with Bowers and McBride that much more ahead of everyone else. I mean, McBride's in his third season here, so he'll be going into season 4. Bowers will just be going into his second season. And of course, you have who else, though? I mean, Laporta's dropped down at least a tier. Kittle, you couldn't have up that high because of his age. And so Pitts definitely hasn't stepped up. So I think you could be seeing a division line there. We'll see. I mean, it depends on what people get for the trade downs. If they're trading down for McBride, are they getting, Pitts in a first, or I don't know, cross positionally where you would put McBride? It kind of, well, it definitely depends on your tight end premium in your league, number of tight ends that you have to start. But let's say just a one tight end, half point tight end premium, right? Cross positionally, I could see McBride versus, well, see, that's where it is. Do you want to put McBride up against Puka because he's going to be in that upper elite tier? Or do you see him more as like, I don't know, I don't want to say Devonta Smith, just thinking Brian Thomas, okay? Cross positionally, is Brian Thomas and McBride, where would they stand? Would you have to give something up on top of Thomas? Those are questions you're going to have to answer this offseason. So just think about that for a little bit with the tight end position and how you're going to approach it with your teams this offseason. Of course, it definitely hinges on what your positional scarcity is of it within your league. Each league has its own dynamic regarding the tight end position, and the quicker you get a handle on it, the better for you. All right, let's get back to games. All right, so here we are. All right, so McBride was the only real big thing out of that ugly Seattle-Arizona matchup. Let's see down here. Raiders, Broncos, not much really going on there. I mean, I can just tell you real quickly, Bo Nix dominated, threw it to Cortland Sutton a lot, and the Raiders running backs still suck, but Amir Abdullah did catch a touchdown. So bravo to those who did scoop up Abdullah this last week. But yes, and Gardner Minshew broke his collarbone and he's out for the year. Aiden O'Connell will be getting the start against the Chiefs on Friday. Yes, we have one Friday game sandwiched in between our breakfast on Thursday and our dinner on Sunday. We have a nice little tasty lunch in the Raiders traveling to Kansas City. So it's either going to be a tight divisional matchup or blah. But the way the Chiefs have been playing this season, they haven't been blowing anybody out. So I wouldn't doubt that you have a close game. Somehow the Raiders D could suck it up and stand toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. So we'll see. That's why they play the game, right? Okay, let's get to this Tennessee Houston matchup. Oh. So here we had Will Levis just like, where was this? Right? So ended with a 123 rating, 75% completion percentage, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, pick six in the mix there, of course, for Levis. What a shocker there. But, Tony Pollard got 119 and a touchdown on the ground, continues to perform well. And then Levis, he spread it around. Ridley had 5 for 93. Chig had that big 70-yarder where that was absolutely out of nowhere. And then you got Nick Westbrook-Ikeen, the touchdown machine, right? I mean, what else can I say? If you haven't scooped up this guy yet, just pick him up for the bottom of your bench because he could still be available in your league. I don't know. Most of my leagues he was already on when he started this rampage, but nobody's been starting him actually. Maybe this week, a couple of people because of the buys. So I think that he may have hit a few lineups I saw in my leagues, but for the most part, he's probably still, I bet, available in probably 60, 70% of the leagues. So he's somebody you could look out for. Over on the Houston side, Nico didn't explode, but didn't disappoint. He had 5 for 92 and a touchdown. Tank Dell just 3 for 72. Mixon got shut down, though. That Tennessee wall. Who is Tennessee playing this week? They are... Is it the Commanders? Yes, the Commanders. So just keep that in mind when Jeremy McNichols was already a big pickup, but just temper your expectations a little for the guy, all right? Because they are going into this giant defensive front for the Titans, which are finally seeming to be getting it together there. All right, let's check out the next couple of games. We had Chiefs-Panthers. Bryce Young bounced back nicely in that one, just to note. Keep an eye on the Chiefs backfield, whether Pacheco gets activated or not, and then Kareem Hunt returns to his old role. Hunt hasn't done that great the last week or two, so temper your expectations with him as well for next week. Commanders, Cowboys. That was an insane fourth quarter. Oh my gosh. The back and forth. Terry McLaurin saving his day and Jaden Daniels' day with an 86-yard touchdown. Then the Cowboys run a kickoff back. Oh, it was just back and forth. It was nuts. The Cowboys somehow got out of there with the win. Dolphins, Patriots, pretty ugly. Let's look at the Lions Colts box score here. Just to give, there we go. Just so we can talk a little about Anthony Richardson here. So Richardson, in his second full game back, just 11 of 28, 472 yards, though. Did have 61 on the ground. Spread it around. He was spreading it around a little better, I think, when he targeted Michael Pittman first. So he had 6 for 96. Pittman did. But Josh Downs got hurt in this one, so that could be a bump for Adonai Mitchell. And then, of course, why not Alec Pierce? I mean, in a pinch, throw him into your lineup if you had him this past week with all the buys. Sure. And coming up week 14, though, he has on a bye. So never mind with Indianapolis on that. But for the Lions, David Montgomery is still basically he's a game time decision. So make sure you get up early tomorrow. Because as long as he's healthy, you want him in your lineup, I think. Otherwise, we're going to see a big Jahmyr Gibbs game tomorrow. So something to keep an eye on. All right. Let's roll. Vikings Bears was everything it was not cooked out to be, I guess is what you'd say. It ended up 30-27. Kind of wild at the end here as well. Bears were down. What were they down? 27-16 and rallied. Yeah. So it was a pretty entertaining game and gives me hope that the Bears could give Detroit a run tomorrow, possibly. It is a divisional matchup. It's going to come down to Caleb. Last year the Packers went into Detroit and they were an under 500 team at the time, and Jordan Love lit it up. So Detroit definitely plays a risky style defense, and so they could get burned possibly if we're going to see that like this is the turning point for Caleb Williams this year. Otherwise, we could see a big turnover fest and Detroit blows them out. I don't know. That's why they play the game, though. All right. So let's go to just these last two. All right, we'll talk about my Bucks dominating the Giants. Mike Evans didn't quite have the big day we were hoping for those owners. Just 5 for 68, but the key is that he's back and looks solid. Big day on the ground, though, for the Bucks. Everybody that ran it once scored. You can see there, and it was in a variety of ways, but Bucky ended up leading the way with 88 yards. He's somebody that I think we can trust now. I mean, he had 6 for 64 through the air as well. So I don't want to say that he's overtaken Rachaad White, but because in the receiving game, I still think Rashaad's a better receiver, but going off of this past week, it didn't turn out that way. I still think that it's like a 45-45-10 split with Sean Tucker thrown in there. I mean, he even got in the end zone. He only had 4 carries for 3 yards, but not everybody can run the ball around like Baker, right? That was a pretty wild touchdown, Baker's touchdown run. But that saved his fantasy day pretty much because he did not throw a touchdown pass. Threw for 294, which is nice. But we'll see how this easier schedule plays out for the Bucks because Baker he got a lot of yards in those games where the Bucks were trailing. The 4-game losing streak prior to the bye. So we'll see. But they get the Panthers next week. or this Sunday. And the Giants are, that's right, they're on tomorrow. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I don't mind Cooper Rush versus Drew Lock. Seems like it could be an entertaining matchup. But we'll find out tomorrow. The last game to talk about from last week. Oh, yeah. The Snowball. That's right. Bring it up here. Jameis Winston proclamating his entrance into Huntington Bank Stadium on this marvelous evening. Oh, you gotta love Jameis. So Russ kind of struggled in the snow, but I mean, stats wise, it wasn't terrible. 270 and a touchdown. I mean, Jameis only threw for 219, no touchdowns. Did have that crazy rushing touchdown, which was awesome. And but you know, the key here is how much is Russell Wilson throwing to George Pickens, right? That's what we're all getting hyped about, because Pickens is pretty much cemented into most people's lineups, whoever owns him. So he went just 4 for 48 in this one, but I think that had more to do with the weather than anything. There was one where I think he definitely drew a pass interference that they didn't call. So you can see Pickens is ready to explode, and it could happen at any time where he goes on a 2 or 3 game bender, and who knows, could happen in the playoffs, because the Steelers don't have an easy stretch coming up. No, the Steelers, let me just bring up their schedule quick for you. Coming up, they're at Cincinnati, then they host the Browns again, then at Philadelphia, at Baltimore, home to the Chiefs in championship week, and then they play the Bengals in week 18. But that's a rough stretch there. The Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs in the playoffs for us in fantasy, and so that's just something to keep in mind. That's all right. Anything else out there anybody wants to chat about? Okay. Well, if not, I do want to remind you, just hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. Just check out my rankings on patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Don't forget, we've got the buymeacoffee.com as always. That's buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. You can ask anything there. Start, sit, question, trade advice, whatever you've got going on in your league. Maybe it's a commissioner issue. Who knows? But regardless, just ask me that at Buy Me a Coffee, and I have no problem getting back to you right away. So thank you guys for joining tonight. Happy Turkey Day. Enjoy.